office. Shout out to the mastermind. Shout out to Charles for letting us use his office for this. But we're having a conversation, doing some podcasts, did some recording for Hive Mind, doing some podcasts today. So trying to knock as much content as possible with the tools and people you have in place. So it's awesome to get some work done and actually utilize a nice setup like this. You don't get this often.
I think the coolest part is it kind of opens you up to the opportunity. So whenever you're taking action and you're doing things, you never know what's going to come from it. So it's cool to have you guys here at what I call Todd Capital Studios, which is just the beginning of things for us. So yeah.
Phase one. That's what you call it. So I think a lot of people. So when I just did a podcast with Andre last week
in Atlanta.
Wow. And he's like, it's like I was told him I was still coming to town because he's like he canceled on me, and I'm like, I'm still coming to town. I got other stuff to do. So he's like, all right, well, I'll make it happen. I'm like, all right, see what happens. So he did the whole setup by himself.
Yeah.
Which I know you've done that before too in a hotel.
Yeah, I do all the time.
So for him, it was his first time, and I told him, I was like, well, when you're forced to do things you don't want to do, you kind of make stuff happen, and you kind of get out of the comfort zone of what you can do and what you can't do, based on the tools and knowledge you have.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool having you kind of grow. You grow a lot, so you kind of know like, hey, if I'm by myself, I can do this, this, and this, and if I have somebody here, I can do a lot more, but I can still get it done by myself, and you don't have to count on people. Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, for me, a lot of times at the end of the day, all you have is yourself. So it's good to learn those skills. It's good to learn the skills of graphic design. Sometimes I edit my own content in terms of video content, audio content. I literally have become just fully inclusive in myself so I can get it done. Either it gets done or it gets done, but I'm not gonna have my progress be beholden to somebody else. I'll never let that happen because I got things riding on it now. I got a son, I got all these different things. I can't allow some stranger the ability to determine the make or break for me.
So I like learning from new things. So I've never seen a setup like this. So I've been learning from him. So now I know the tools I need, and I think you've been learning too. So you're kind of soaking in different perspectives and new techniques and new strategies you can use just to do your content better as a whole. Yeah. So
I think that's part of it also is like when you realize that you have to become that make or break for you, you're absorbing information. And so it's like, I don't know everything about everything, but I know a little bit about a lot of things. And so when I'm in different spaces, I'm always watching like, okay, I see what they're doing with that. I see how they did that. I went to the Social Proof podcast, and that's when I realized they were recording the audio and the video separately. And so then I put that little piece into my project and like, okay, let's do it this way. And so you're always learning. And I think that's the great part about being an entrepreneur is the learning never stops. You're always growing, you're always improving, you're always becoming better. So you become more valuable as you become better. So I think that's a good thing.
So I like perspective too. So like most time, you're either a consumer or a creator. So like when people go to events, they're usually consuming the event. Whereas when creators go, we're trying to get new ideas, we're getting inspiration, we pick up like new techniques and strategies that they might have used for that event. So I like going to high level events just because you might get inspiration for your own stuff and you're like, oh, that was a good idea. Let me try and put that into this. So it's a different perspective from creator to consumer.
Absolutely. It's I was at the Charger game, and the Chargers have all these different brand partnerships. And one of them is a casino, and the casino's like, hey, for coming to the game, we're giving you a $25 credit. I was like, you can't do that with $25. That is marketing. They're gonna give you $25, so you give them $200 or $300 or $400 or $500. And so you start seeing the marketing and the business behind everything, because everything is a business. Every single thing in this world is a business. So I think that it's, like you said, it's a gift and a curse. Yep. But I think it's more of a gift than a curse, because you learn how to keep your money because you're so used to trying different ways to get other people's money. So I can see through the things you're trying to put in my face to take the money that I have.
So every business starts with marketing. If you don't know that, every business starts with marketing. So once you learn marketing and different techniques and strategies, you can use those to your advantage based off of other people's even copy. You can copy people's copy and kind of make it your own and kind of own that. And most people don't even recognize that you copied that copy from somebody else. Yeah. And it's a lot of, even like we're watching the Chargers, they do marketing at a high level. Yeah. So, and even the casino thing, what you said, giving away money for free. A lot of people think you're crazy. So I heard this from Anthony talks about this all the time. Is that when he was building PayPal, he was actually giving money away for just to get people to use the product or service. And Anthony was like, well, you know how much money? I think he was giving away like $20, $25 per user that came in to use PayPal. And he asked me, he was like, how much money do you think he gave away? And I'm like, maybe $10 million. And he said they give away like $70 million or something like that, just to get people's eyes into using the product. And then once they have the product user base, they can take that to $1 billion.
Yeah. We've seen that with Robinhood. Robinhood gives you free stock. Webull gives you free stock. And
there you go.
It's a lot of times that's business, is you have to spend the money to make the money. We all know that. But that's one of the things that I've seen is I stopped running ads as heavy this year. And I started being able to tap into my audience, but I wasn't growing my audience. And so I had to go back to put in the thousands, whatever that number might be, per week into building the actual business that was allowing me to do those crazy numbers in 2020, 2021. If you stop putting the money in, you're gonna stop bringing the money in. And so you might see, somebody said like, you don't wanna look at the cost, you look at the leverage. So you're not looking at the 70 million. The average person's looking at the 70 million. The above average person's looking at the billion, the money that's coming back in. They're not looking at the $25 going out, they're looking at the 500 coming in. And especially because you can't even use it unless you use their service. So I'm not just giving you $25, I'm giving you a $25 credit. I'm giving you stock on my platform. So now you have to go onto my platform, learn how to use it, open an account, give me all your information. Once you start doing all that stuff, you're not going anywhere. And so we have to learn how to incentivize people, but also capture them in the process. So I don't just want to give you money. Like, no, I'm purchasing a lead. People, they spend a lot of money on leads, but they're not willing to do creative things that are gonna bring in leads. And so there's companies that will just sell you leads flat out. Like, oh, you want 50 leads? Give me $200, $300, $400. But you can still do the same way, to the same thing, and capture leads by putting out free products, low cost products, by doing free consults, by creating content, things like that that are gonna open yourself and broaden your funnel to more people, but it's gonna cost you some time and some money.
So let's kind of cover this. So every business knows the cost of a lead for a new customer. So in some cases, giving $25 is cheaper than what it actually costs to convert a new customer.
Right.
So it's a different perspective. So the one thing I love about marketing is that the cost of a lead is they have low ticket and they have high ticket. It's kind of the DIY is low ticket and you have to do a little bit of work, and then they have the high ticket where, hey, we'll charge you $50, $75 a lead if you want to pay us for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we have the traffic. So I was laughing because I was looking for more places to do marketing, and I was looking at magazines, other podcasts and stuff like that. And they wanted to charge, I'm not going to put the name out there, but there was a company that wanted a $10,000 a month upfront cost just to do marketing for them that they would spread across 3 months. I'm like, $10,000. And they have a magazine, podcasts, multiple podcasts, and I'm like, man, just for the traffic, they're charging big money for leads, potential traffic, to drive potential traffic to your website or business, and they're charging big money for that. So I'm like, now I get it. You got to get the traffic, and once you have the traffic, you can do whatever you want.
Right. And that's what makes social media so powerful, is you can skip people like that. Before, I tell people this all the time, before you had to buy that billboard, you had to get that radio advertisement, you had to get that TV advertisement, the newspaper advertisement, things a lot of us couldn't afford. And so they positioned it so that they can determine who's gonna succeed or fail. They're gonna determine who's gonna get access, and they can price you out. And social media is an equalizer. The internet is an equalizer. The internet allows you to pop up on an Instagram live, pop your shit, and get customers. The internet allows you to create a reel, get thousands of views, and get customers. The internet allows you to pay somebody $50, $75, $100 and get customers. And that's the real win, because we're getting them out of our pocket, because there is no huge number that you have to jump over anymore. So if I'm paying you $20,000 to get access to your advertising and I make $20,000, it's not worth it. Social media, if you give somebody $20,000, you're probably gonna make 200 grand. you can 10x your money. And I used to tell people this all the time, like, you guys are underpricing. I run an ad with you and I pay you $100 and I make 10 grand. That makes no sense. And they started realizing it too. And so I told them, like, I don't even want that. I don't want to take all your money. Just be an affiliate and we can split everything 50-50 because it's only fair. I'm okay with you making 5 grand if I make 5 grand. But back in the day, they didn't care if you made money. So I'm dealing with companies like Black Wealth Renaissance, Black Millionaires, Black Success Today, people who I want to make sure that they're getting fair value for what they're giving me. But I can't say the same thing is true for the person with a billboard. They just want the money. They don't care. And those billboards are not cheap. And so social media is truly an equalizer, especially because in a lot of ways we run social media. We got the most followers, we got the most swag, we got the most everything. So we need to make sure that we're tapping into that and going direct.
So let's talk about the power of creators and the creator economy. So a lot of people, they think, I'm really glad you hit on that, because a lot of people think like, oh, I'm nobody. But the power of social media kind of opens the floodgates. So you can create your own content. And this is my quote. I'm going to take this to my grave: is that you build your infamy off the content you produce. Yeah. And it's not my quote. I'm doing it myself, but I'm not necessarily big. But I've seen it done. You just start producing content. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to be something big. Produce content. Yeah. That's all you got to do. Produce content. Yeah. Record podcasts, do videos, do interviews. Show up. Once you show up, people. I think you say this all the time. People don't know who you are. Yeah. You got to create that content so people know who you are, what your purpose is, what you resonate with, what your business is, what products do you sell. Yeah. It's huge.
I would say that it's sad, but a lot of people think they're nobody because the job and the system that they're in needs them to think that they're nobody. Why? Because then you're okay with taking the 50 grand I'm gonna give you. But you're not a nobody, and there's a ton of value, there's limitless value inside of you. The content just allows you to take you to the market. And that's the most important thing, is none of this matters if there's no money attached to it. None of this matters if the people that you're talking to don't have any ability to pay you. Because you can get caught in the trap of just doing it for the fun of it and never actually creating something where people can pay you. I have a friend, he is a wholesaler. He got into digital products, and when he got into digital products, he found that he actually has a deeper connection with the people than before. So when people pay you, they buy into you. And when they buy into you, they're more willing to listen to what you're saying, they're more willing to rally behind what you're doing, and it becomes a community. And so, yes, create the content, but also have something worth paying for that you can attach to what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be high ticket, nothing super crazy, not making people go into credit card debt, none of that. I don't believe in that. I believe that there might be like things that you can turn into that, because what we're finding is once you build such a large brand, your time becomes so valuable. So at that point, I can't just give you my time for free, because I'm constantly being pulled in different directions, constantly getting DMs, all that stuff. So at that point, your time is high value. Yeah. Something I created 3 years ago in a walk-in closet, I'm not gonna tap you for that. Like, all right, whatever that price might be, the information is the information. It's not gonna matter unless you execute on it anyway. But it's so many different things that go into it. I think the biggest thing people can take is that you have to trust your own greatness and build your own greatness and believe in your greatness and not condition your greatness upon somebody else saying that you were great. Don't let somebody else and their opinion determine whether you can take something to market, whether you can help people, because you're already helping people with the job that you have. So there's a few books that I would recommend that you read, not even a few, just two. One is Rich 20-something, where he talks about how you can take what you're doing right now and you can freelance and turn it into a consulting business. And the other is Choose Yourself, where they talk about how you don't have to wait on a job or whoever else to choose you. You just got to choose yourself. Read those two books and you'll be good.
I'm going to add another book, Make a Million While You're Young.
Read that book too.
Read that book too. So it's actually Charles's book.
I got to get that like printed in here or something.
It was a selfless plug because I don't read books.
Yeah.
I'm starting to now, but I don't read books. So that was one of the first. That was like one of the 5 books I read last year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is dope. So I'm working on writing a book this year. Not that I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna probably just record podcasts.
Yeah.
And have that.
However you get it done.
Transcript it, but I'm bad at writing. But But I know I have the content and I know I have the information. So if I talk about it, that's enough.
You have a ton of information, man. Every time I hear you talk, I'm like, bro, this dude is like brilliant. Like when you start talking, like when you go on the calls or when you share gems in regard to business, like absolutely.
And like I didn't learn that overnight. It was just you learn through the tough times. You learn through the tough times.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna come back to your point you said about finding your inner self. I made a decision a year and a half ago. I'm sick of where I'm at. Not that I'm in a bad place, but I'm sick of where I'm at, and I know I have something to give to the world, and I wanna make a difference.
Yeah.
And it was an internal decision that I made to myself. I'm like, I need to start doing something.
Yeah.
So it came out to making social media posts online. If everybody goes back to March 2020, I had 6 posts on Instagram. So now I'm like, okay, creating content.
What changed?
It was a mindset change. Yeah. I was already in business, but it was like, am I in business for myself or am I gonna do business for other people? So it was more of an internal decision that I made to just, hey, I want to provide valuable information.
So I hear what you're saying. Have you seen things change as you've made that switch?
Not right away. I've seen a lot more lately.
Yeah.
And it's been a year and a half. Like a lot of people think, I wanna do this, and this, and I'm gonna change the world, and then they get tired and quit.
Yeah.
And kind of get burnt out a little bit. And it takes consistency.
Yeah.
I tell this to new entrepreneurs all the time. What separates you from everybody else is starting. That's step one, is starting something. Because 95% of the people out there still work a job.
Yeah.
So if you start something, you're already above that. So you starting is a big deal. That's a big deal. Starting a side hustle, starting something is a big deal. Don't take it lightly. You're doing better than 90% of the people out there. Yeah. What separates you from everybody else after that point is just consistency.
Yeah.
There might be failures, ups and downs, everything else that comes behind that. But what separates everybody else from that point is consistency.
Yeah.
And you can kind of turn up the gas and turn down the gas at that point, but just be consistent. Be consistent. I was looking at my podcast numbers this morning. 20% of our downloads happened in the last 9 days.
Wow. Interesting.
And we launched September. So like I think it's the power of being consistent.
Yeah.
I texted Henry this morning. And I'm like, dude, just be consistent. Just put it out there. You don't know what's going to happen. And I think look, the podcast game is a long game. I think YouTube is playing the long game. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people want to play the short game. And I'm like, you can play the short game. There's options. There's opportunity out there. But just know it might take a lot more work than you're willing to do. But if you play the long game, that can play dividends the rest of your life.
Yeah. The interesting thing about it is if you get into it just for the money, you're probably going to lose. But if you get into it for the change and you also charge, then I think you'll be all right. Because I think people can see through that, man. People can see if you're just doing something just for the money. And people can see, like, if, like, my entire brand is bigger than just me making money. That's why I'm able to do things for affordable prices. That's why I'm able to do things that I don't charge for, because the brand is bigger than the money. But you still are selling yourself short if you don't charge. And so I don't know when you should make that switch. But I know that you do have to be consistent. You have to put out that content. You got to always be bringing new, fresh content. You can't just be recycling what everybody else is saying. You have to apply your fresh insight to what's going on now. And that's how you're going to grow that following. I've been able to grow followings every social media platform I've been on. It's almost kind of crazy how it happens. I don't know. I mean, I know how it happens because I feel like I'm dope and I don't indulge in bullshit. And so whatever the crowd is doing, I'm usually not doing. Whatever's progressive and productive, I'm doubling down on that stuff. So people like it. They might not want to do it, but they like it. It's kind of like people admire people who are in shape, even if they don't want to work out. People are going to admire somebody who is financially intelligent, who's working towards these things, even if they are still balling out and making it rain in the strip club. And so I think I just stay in tune with that. That's my version of physical fitness, although I am working on my physical fitness. But my version of physical fitness is like financial fitness, wealth fitness. And it's always been, and It could be for superficial reasons. I like cars. I like fancy stuff. And so I do it for superficial reasons, but I'm realizing there's still a wholesome reason why this stuff has to happen too. And it all comes down to money. It all comes down to money and the power of money and what money can do for you, your friends, your family. It all works together. But I would say, yeah, being consistent, showing up, building that brand is important. Tapping into who you are and your expertise in your lane are important. I don't want to see people out there who are just copying what other people are doing. That's why I like what you guys do, because it's not what everybody else is doing. It's something that's completely different than what everybody else is doing. And you can get behind that because you're not competing with me. You're not trying to take my clients. If anything, we complement each other more than anything. So I have a mastermind. You literally can help everybody in the mastermind. That's what an economy is supposed to look like, where we help each other. We're not stealing from each other. And that can make things difficult for business for everybody involved. And we're thinking, oh, it's a business thing. It's just like, no, like everybody can't sell candles, fam. Everybody can't sell like t-shirts. Everybody can't sell that basic stuff. You need to pick a lane that's unique to you and run full speed to it. And don't try to copy what somebody else is doing. And we all win that way.
It's a lot of opportunity in a blue ocean.
Yeah.
Tons of opportunity. And I think you mentioned that in your book, finding a blue ocean. They see people be successful and like, ooh, that looks good. Let me try and copy that. Or the people steal your course and rebrand it and kind of go that direction. Like,
have you heard of that concept before?
What?
That book, The Blue Ocean Theory?
No, I haven't.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's cool. I like that.
So a lot of people, like somebody else was like, you need to read more books. I'm like, I'm inspirational. I don't need to read books. But I'm trying to do better. I think I'm about to finish my first book for the year.
Which book is that?
I can't even remember the title. I read almost the whole thing through my flight when I went to Atlanta. So I got like 20 pages left.
What's it about?
It's about building leadership. Okay. Building leadership. What is dope about it is Wealth Squad. I saw his NFT robot this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I saw one of his users. He's like, I'm gonna do one call a week teaching leadership.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what's important. Yeah. It's important to build. You need a lot more than just your subject offer, and that's something we're trying to launch in the future. Is that we're trying to cover a lot of different subjects because a lot of people, they need a lot of help. They missed a lot of information in school. They were taught. They never had a father teach them that stuff. Yep. And it's just one of those things where if you can fill in a lot of gaps that people have personally, you can push people to be a better version of themselves. Yeah. So I like what you said earlier about people don't know their capabilities and their true self of what they can be. And what I'm trying to do is I want to bring that out. Sometimes it's making money. When you get money, you kind of realize what you can do. You gain confidence. You walk differently. You talk differently, and you have a certain swagger that comes with that. But then you start learning. Okay, I have faults too that I need to fix and correct. What can I do to? Is it my health? Is it my knowledge? Is it certain subjects? Is it how I carry my relationships? Is it how I lead? So now you kind of carry that into other points in your life, and you actually become a better person.
Right.
Just by as simple as making a little bit more money, you realize, okay, I'm a little fat. I need to go to the gym more often. So now I'm working on getting my health better. Yeah. So then you realize what's important, and a lot of people they go to 9 to 5, they work there 5 days a week, and they think that check's important, but it's really not. Mm-hmm. So there was a video I watched with Anthony, and it talks about how money is actually buying physical time. Some people work $10 an hour for it. 40 hours a week, that's $400 a week. If you can make $400 in a day, you just bought a week worth of time by selling 4 courses in most people's scale. So when you start making more money, you can now hire employees. You can now put more output into your direction and just in your business. That's where you create more money. Yeah. So a lot of people think, how does Elon Musk become the richest man in such a short time? He's found a way to collapse time and make more money in such a short amount of time that he's able to now, he has time availability. He can hire 10,000 employees like this with a snap of his fingers, and it doesn't affect his pockets, which is huge. because that means if I want to start a business, I can take it to $1 billion with a flick of my fingers, just because I can buy that time now.
Yeah.
You can create new products. You can be a trailblazer, because Elon's a trailblazer.
Yeah.
So I think by him trailblazing at the start, he's being able to buy time to create more things in the future, and he's become a pivotal leader in the business space and technology space just by being able to buy time.
I hear what you're saying. I think it also speaks to the leverage of business, because being able to spend money is one thing. Being able to spend money on things that are going to 10x your money is another. And so Elon, if you guys track back his career, he's created like a software company, something like that. It's either a software company or a game or something. He sold that, he took that money, and I want to say that's where he used the money to start kind of investing in PayPal. And he didn't even invest in PayPal. He was in a company that was similar to PayPal, did something kind of like the same lines, and they merged together with him and Peter Thiel and the other guys. Flipped that, then he put that into more businesses. And so that's where I'm trying to be. I was watching a podcast this morning with Magic Johnson. He bought a company for $20 million, turned it into $1 billion company. Like, that kind of stuff is just amazing, because it's hard to really explain, because a lot of us don't understand it. A lot of us don't understand the concept of taking 20 million and turning it into $1 billion. It just doesn't make sense. But that's what Elon Musk is doing. And I think, to take it back to the beginning, it does make a difference when you're not first making money for survival instincts. Because a lot of people, they can't truly develop, like you were saying, until they actually get the thought of having to stress out about paying bills out of their mind. Then they can read books and take courses and do extra things. Like, I'm in a class that has nothing to do with making money. Not every Tuesday for 2 hours, I'm in a class so that I can be better for my family. It has nothing to do with, am I gonna make $1 million? I can do that because I got the time, and I'm not over here stressed about how I'm gonna pay for my bills. And so I think when you said that, like, that kind of triggered, I was like, that's true. Like, you can actually smoothen out those surfaces and sand down those edges that somebody who's stressed out, they might not be able to do. Like, for me, I had to give up alcohol because I realized, like, alcohol was fucking up a lot of shit. But a lot of people who don't have financial freedom, they drink to get a sense of freedom. And so they can't really work towards something that's gonna make them live an even greater life. And not drinking alcohol allows you to live a greater life, because there's so many negative things that come with alcohol. I've lost a lot of weight just because I don't drink alcohol. I'm always 100% there because I don't drink alcohol. Whereas before, I was turned up all the time. It's like, that's another thing that I can focus on. Like, because it takes effort to do those things, unless you're somebody who just, I don't drink. But like, I tell people a lot of times, the world, literally, the foundation of the world is alcohol.
Yeah.
You go to a sports game, it's bar, beer, beer. It's all there. You go to a casino, it's all there. You go to Vegas, it's all there. So going to Vegas sober was a very unique experience for me. I still had a good time, but mostly I just spent a bunch of money. It was just crazy. But you're right. Get your money right, and it allows you to get other aspects of your life right. A lot of people who have fucked up lives, it's because they haven't gotten their money right yet. And so all they can focus on is being at a place for 50, 60 hours a week, and then getting home being too exhausted to do anything and never actually improving because they're just trying to pay the mortgage.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. It's an interesting perspective. And like I said, a lot of people don't talk about it. It's just one of the things that you don't understand what the missing piece is. And I didn't understand it when I worked my job. It was just like, I knew I had a good paying job at that point. I had bills to pay, so I'm like, okay, this is all I can do. Let me go truck drive. And you don't know any other way. But here's the power of information, is that when you provide the information, now it opens your doors. I actually had an epiphany. So what got me into business was truck driving, because I had time to listen to podcasts. So one of my biggest factors for starting a podcast is because now I got to get back to the community, because that's where I came from.
Yeah. I was going to say that a lot of the information that you get that allows you to grow comes from books. Like, almost everything that I'm doing now came from a book. And that was one of the things that I admired about the Bigger Pockets podcast, is every episode, all they're doing is talking about different books they've read. At the end, they're asking you questions about different books. Like, Brandon Turner is where he is because you just sat down one summer and just read. So I think that books and podcasts are definitely helpful because, I mean, the right podcasts.
The right podcast.
Some of these podcasts are just long sales pitches. But there are some good podcasts out there with good information, actual information, and they're not actually trying to sell you stuff. So shout out to those podcasts. But yeah, you're right. The information, 100% the information, the environment, the exposure. You got to get exposed to these different things. And so people are always wondering, like, why are you at the Ferrari dealership? Why are you at the Lambo dealership? Why are you doing these different things? Why are you looking at the Rolexes? Why are you looking at all this stuff? Because the mindset is different. The conversation is different. And you're going to find out who you need to become when you're in those environments. So environment is so key, not only being in the right environment, but making sure that you avoid the wrong environments. Because sometimes those wrong environments can be attractive. They can pull you in. They might be familiar. They might be your friends, your families. But if they're not getting you to where you want to be in life, you got to remove yourself immediately. And so those things are highly important. I'm very big on environment and exposure and intentional exposure. Go stay at that hotel, go eat at that restaurant, go talk to the people that are there, and it'll take your life to the next level.
Man, I think, man, you struck a nerve because like, the environment can make or break you in a lot of different ways. And I grew up from Chicago, so I've actually had family members get shot from gang violence from that just because they're in the wrong environment. And they think a lot of people, that's the only way to go from that position. And it has to be a mental change that you don't want that for you and your family that makes you kind of step out of that.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is I forgot the kind of where this thought triggered, but I realized like I don't really, so we're in Southern California. Southern California means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It can mean Beverly Hills, it can mean Hollywood, it could also mean Compton and all that stuff. But what's interesting is I was like, I don't think I could ever really get caught up in that stuff because I don't go to those spaces.
Yeah.
So even if I'm in Inglewood at a football game, I'm not going to that store right there, fam. Because I see it's just not the environment. I see folks hanging out outside. It's just not a cool spot. Even though right down the street is the stadium. Even though right down the street is the Forum and all this stuff going on. And so I think that you have to be conscious of these things as well. Even if you're in that environment, you can't be of that environment. Even if you're in that like Detroit area, you can't be of that Detroit. It's interesting. It's I psychologically or mentally, I just always have made sure to stay out of those spaces because I don't want the problems that come with those spaces. Even if you're just an innocent bystander, you can get caught up in some negative stuff that can affect your life permanently.
I think where this is going is like rappers. They might be doing big business, but they're in the wrong space of that business, and then they end up. I hate seeing the rappers get killed and like, man, there's so much potential. They could have done so much good to the world, but they're in the wrong space, and it's just this tragic ending.
I think that was kind of what triggered the thought is I put out a tweet and I said, like, you don't see a lot of these successful entrepreneurs getting gunned down because they're not in those spaces, man. They're not out there trying to prove that they're hood and they got street cred. Like, that's just not the place that you want to be. But we've seen it happen with all these rappers who make some money and they still think they got to be a part of the hood. They still got to be down with the crew. And maybe because of the industry that they're in and the things that they're talking about, maybe that just comes with the territory. So if you're rapping about being hood and being down, you got to be in the hood and be down. Otherwise, people aren't going to listen to your stuff. But if I'm talking about the stock market, I can be in a high rise in a suit and nobody would care. So it's interesting that you say that. The dynamics suck. I don't want it to happen because we've seen a lot of people get shot down and killed recently. A lot. Too many for the narrative to be Black Lives Matter. People don't like when I say this, but it should be Black Lives Matter on the whole, not Black Lives Matter if a cop does it. Yeah. And if we can get to that point where like legit Black Lives Matter, the community would be good. Yeah. We'd have property values, we'd have all these different things. Everything would be functioning and running. And that's where we should aim to be, and hopefully I don't know if we'll get there, man. I just know that my son, he gonna be in a very secluded environment where you don't got to deal with that stuff. You want to know why? Because I don't want my child's success to be contingent upon somebody else doing right. I want him to just be in an environment where I don't got to worry about nobody else. Because you can do everything right for your child, put him in the wrong environment, and that knucklehead will F his life up. I don't want him to even have that around him. And so that's why I'm very intentional about where he goes to school, what that whole process looks like, because I've seen it. Me growing up, I grew up in a healthy household, but the way that the schools are situated, you're bringing in people from different areas who influence you. Whereas, like, I don't want that. And you won't get that if you put them in a private school. If you're in a public school, you never know what the public's doing. You never know what the government's doing because the government's retarded. But put them in a private school and we'll be all right.
So I've been hearing intentional a lot lately, becoming more intentional. I think a lot of people, they think that they wing it, they kind of go with the flow. But if you're intentional, it shows that you care and you want to produce a certain result. So you're going to be intentional about it. Yeah. So I think being intentional about certain things is very, very important. Intentional about business, intentional how you sell, intentional how you represent yourself, intentional about how you raise your kids, intentional about a lot of your output because it has a purpose. It has a bigger purpose.
Right.
So intentional is very, very, very key. Being more intentional.
I mean, we only get one of these things.
That's it.
It's not like we get a do-over. So it's like, what are you gonna do if you aren't intentional and purposeful with your life? Just not live a fulfilled life? Like, that's not really an option over here. One of the things that I'm thankful for is how I was raised. I was raised with parents who were about their business. I was raised going to church and being taught that there's a good life out there for me if you put the work in and you do these different things. And so I've always had a vision for my life. I've always known what I want my life to look like. I've always, like, that's why I've done what I've done. Go to college, go to law school, get married, buy a house, have kids. It was by design. It was intentional. I'm not just winging this shit, man. Like, I'm doing everything on purpose because you only get one. And so now all my friends and family, they're looking like, Charles, he did what he's supposed to do. Just follow what Charles did. Like, that's because I had a plan, fam. I wasn't just out there just living life. I don't think any of us should be out here living life. Like, I'm not very big on planning per se, but I do have a plan for my life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important.
Plan for your life. So somebody asked me this recently, like, where do you see yourself? I'm like, I have no idea. Yeah. I know so many things can happen so quickly, so I can't even, I'm being consistent, intentional, and then I'll see where it takes me.
Yeah. The where do you see yourself question is tough.
It is.
But I would like to just own a lot of shit. That's what I just want to own a lot of shit. And I think where we are now and a lot of the land out here gives you the opportunity to acquire and own a lot of stuff and put things together that make sense. I want to be that dude. I want to be the dude where people think of a city and they think of me. When they think of an area, they think of me like, oh, dang, Charles is out here. He built this, he built that. He has this school, he has this skyscraper, like this arena. Where you've been to, like if you go to, I was in Arkansas. Arkansas is overran by everything Walmart because that's where it was built.
Wow.
And so they own the amphitheater. They have a huge whatever. They just location. And then you go to Detroit and Ford is like, that's how they run the whole city. Everything is Ford or Chrysler. That's what I want. That's where I see myself. That's where I'm grinding to get to. So even this deal that I'm trying to put together right now, I think that that's just like a baby step.
What's up?
Camera went out.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Go ahead and fix it.
Just have to cut.
Yeah. It happens.
I don't even know what this dude said. Let me see what he said about the appointment. Last time this dude, I had an appointment with him at noon. I completely forgot about that thing. I showed up at I looked at my phone, I was like, damn, I forgot about that appointment.
Is it on? Was that it?
I don't know. I think it just went out. I don't know. It's good. It's on.
Okay.
I should have been watching. I saw a red light on there earlier.
Yeah, it went out. Let me check. All right, yeah, we good.
You know what is cool about this conversation though, is it's something that I've kind of wanted to do, where it's like you can have people on the show, and it's not always like an interview about their life. You know what I'm saying? Like usually what happens is it's just like, well, how'd you get here? When did you start the business? How'd you do that? Like you can have a dope person on the show and just talk about general stuff, and it's still a quality show.
So what I try and do is I want the audience to resonate with that person. So I usually dedicate the first 5 to 10 minutes to that. That way they feel some type of person. So I usually ask their background because
Right.
the background shows who you were, where you came from, and kind of resonates with the audience.
Right.
And then I take it to other things that actually bring out depth to a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Because I really don't care. I mean, it's not that I don't care what you do. You've probably done 10 interviews like that.
Right.
20.
Exactly. And I think, and what's cool about that is that you can bring somebody on the same show multiple times.
Which is why we're here.
Because we're not talking about the same story that we already know.
I've known every episode we've done with you, and this is totally different from every
Right.
single one.
Right.
And I like having different conversation because every conversation can be completely different.
Yeah.
And we're
That's what I'm trying to get Andre. That's what I want to do with him. It's kind of like talk about other things outside of just like notary and building your business and entrepreneurship, that kind of stuff. Are we going? Or
I think we're recording. But it was a good exchange. I think we're almost done here anyway. But there's something I want to make known, is kind of alluding to what we before the camera went out, was that somebody owns that skyscraper in LA.
Right. And you know what's crazy about it is it's all numbers.
Yeah.
It's all numbers. This dude is not any better than any of us. He literally looked at the deal, and this is what I'm in the process of trying to do. You look at the deal, you look at the debt, you look at all that stuff, and you start putting things together to make it happen. I interviewed some dudes who bought a 52 unit in Detroit. And as we're having the conversation, you realize they didn't buy it, they put together the deal.
Yep.
And so in this deal, you have 15 other people. Yeah, capital partners. They even had a dude that signed on debt. Like right. They had a dude who all he did is like, he's a guarantor. He's big money stacks. So I was like, man, there's really no limit to the things you can do.
Not in real estate.
Right.
Not in real estate. So put together the deal. A lot of people think they need everything all themselves. 90% of the people want to get into real estate, but they think they need the capital.
Yeah.
If you understand the structure and how to put together the deal, all you need is the knowledge.
All you need is the knowledge.
All you need is the knowledge.
And you could probably even piece out the knowledge too. You can consult with an
Partner with
attorney.
knowledge.
You can consult out a CPA to do all the financials for you. You can get all these people who are going, like a developer or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to be. I want to pull up on some dirt and say, all right, this is here. All this other stuff is here. What can we do? I feel like every place in California is affordable housing. That's every time I see dirt, I'm like, affordable housing.
Especially this year. They passed the law where now single family are now multi-units. You can build up to like 5 or 6 units in some places everywhere in California. So right now, if you think about it, California's on sale.
I think I did see that, yeah.
California's on sale. It was a law passed in the first for this year. So California's actually on sale because now you can build ADUs, multi-units, duplexes, triplexes.
We don't got a lot of those out here. We don't have a lot of multifamily properties in California.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why they're adding ADUs where you can convert your garage into a unit,
Yeah.
parcel it off, and now you have a duplex.
I should turn mine. Yeah, I think California needs it. And a lot of times what will happen is we'll point at a need and we don't realize that's opportunity.
Opportunity.
Like, people are leaving the state. People who are in the state are living with their parents. Like, come on, man. I don't care what you don't go to the existing home developers to get the answer on whether you should or should not build affordable housing. Because I've done that.
Yeah.
When I was working in the family office, we were residential real estate developers. And I'd always ask them, like, man, affordable housing, dude, affordable housing. They were so out of touch. They rejected every idea. They said, this will not work, bro. But it will. It just won't complement what they're already doing. And so you have to go outside of the current status quo and the people who benefit from the current status quo to create the current status quo. So for example, you don't go to Microsoft and teach them how to create what's gonna destroy Microsoft. They're gonna battle you every time. They're gonna tell you it can't work and all these different things. You gotta go to those new kids out of Stanford who don't have anything to lose And those are the people that you put together to disrupt the industry. And so that's my mindset is, yes, we absolutely need affordable housing, but you can't wait until you get the consensus. That's one of the reasons, like choosing yourself is also not waiting for consensus. Choosing yourself is also not waiting for agreement, not waiting for somebody to approve of your plan, because they can't see it and they probably don't even have enough faith in themselves to believe that it can be executed upon.
I think it's huge. What you're saying is you have to be a creator and you have to surround yourself with people that you want to bring in the knowledge base to create.
Right.
And then you're the trailblazer.
Like the visionary.
You're the visionary and the trailblazer. And a lot of people, like, if you want affordable housing, you can't go to the developer. You have to be the change.
Right.
I think Senegal did that. He brought in the money, brought in the developers, brought in the engineers, brought in the people to make the plans, bought the deal, and now you put the deal together and you put all the things in place to make affordable housing.
Yeah.
And you can't count on the government to do that.
You can't, because they're retarded. They're old, out of touch. They don't know anything. They don't know anything. The older I get, the more I realize, like, the government doesn't know shit.
They don't.
Like, they're out here putting together different plans that nobody asked for. Like, they're in Washington right now working on a voting rights bill. Nobody asked for a voting rights bill. You want a voting rights bill because you want to make sure that you can continue to get voted into office.
Yep.
Folks need help economically.
Yep.
They don't need more votes. And so I think the interesting thing about Chris is Chris is a dude who he's done it already and they're still telling him he can't do it.
Yeah.
And the thing about like business and all these things is you have to create what you need to see for your community. And you have to be creative with it.
Yep.
And what Chris was doing is just one idea. You have to really dig down, you got to find the how. There is no win solutions. Your community needs it. It's your responsibility to find a way, period. And that way is not going to the government. For two reasons. The way is not going for the government because the government is ineffective and inefficient, but also because if you go to the government, what's going to happen is they're going to subcontract it out. And that subcontractor is going to get rich. There are affordable housing tax credits where I've seen attorneys get rich off of them. I've seen developers get rich off of them, but I haven't seen the people who actually need the affordable housing get rich off of them, or the people in that community that's going to be like actually where those houses are being built benefiting from it. And so when you take your problems to the government, you're really handing your wealth to the government. Wealth comes through solving problems. It does not come from, I hate to say it, it's not going to come from getting a fat check, reparations, any of that stuff. It's not coming. If it was coming, it'd have been here already. Your wealth is going to come from you doing the stuff that they say cannot work. That's the wealth. My bad, Joe.
I think what's interesting is that a lot of people talk about change. That's the problem. They talk.
Yeah.
Everybody's talk, but when you take on the personal responsibility to make change, that's when change actually happens. So it's almost, if you want change, you have to go out there and make it. Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to get out of the situation. Like, what are you doing about it then? Yeah. You're just talking about it. Yeah. So it's just, it's been a great conversation. I hope a lot of people get a ton of value from this. Different perspectives, different input. But if you want change, you have to make a change internally to make that change. Yep.
This is cool.
If you want to change your community, you have to change your community by yourself.
Right.
With the people around you.
You do. It's cool to have this conversation because not a lot of podcasts do this. Not a lot of podcasts allow you just to talk. And people are going to find a lot of value from this. They already know who I am. They know what I do. They know what I've done. They know who you are, what you do, and what you've done if they're here, right? If they subscribe you and they follow you, they know. But I think there's a lot more depth to this than just like trade stocks and options, invest in real estate. It's like we're digging into the whys and the hows and to overcoming those things that people are going to throw in your way while you're trying to do it. And that's next level thought. That's the next level conversation. You already know what to do. Now that we're executing, there's going to be problems that come up in our path. The problems don't go away. The problems just get bigger and worse and more expensive. And so that's what I would say.
Well, I think with that, we'll end it here. I appreciate Charles coming on the podcast, us leading News' office. Where can people find you? What's your quick information you provide? Kind of give a quick plug to everything you do.
It's actually very straightforward. Everything is on Instagram at Todd.capital, link in the bio, and you can find everything you need at the link in that bio.
Freedom Pack, hint.
Grab that Freedom Pack, y'all. Man, we got a tax instructor who has a CPA MST, got a credit instructor that has an MBA who is a prior branch manager, and you got myself, Todd Billy. And so I think that nobody else is giving you this level of instruction with the credentials that we have backing us. So I think that's what makes us unique, is we got the degrees, man. My name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Todd Millionaire, signing off.
There you go.